Hi, everybody on the ILR. This is Valerie from Lexis. I'm going to give you a quick video that you can watch that's going to help you figure out how to find a topic. What I want to start with is this, okay? Let the news show you what has been interesting in the last year or so. Don't try to think up a topic in your own head because first, it's hard, and secondly, somebody else will have probably already thought of it, and then you might be preempted. So, what I want you to do is I want you to focus on experts that write about international issues. You take an article and then you develop that into a broader topic, whether or not that is a note or a comment. Now, remember, a note is the longer paper, the more complicated paper, writing more, bringing in a bunch of different sources, and a comment is on just one particular case. So, let us start here. I am going to suggest you do the following. You type in European. There's a few different courts that I want you to look at, okay? European Court of Justice. This is like the EU court that does a lot of interesting rulings. And it's a good paper for you to write either for a note or a comment, because sometimes you can use a case as a jumping off point to write about broader issues. But what you want to do is be able to get news articles that have written about interesting rulings that have come out of the European Court of Justice. So I'm going to say European Court of Justice within the same paragraph. Okay, you guys can follow along with me if you want. As ruling, or ruled. And then I'm going to click over here on search. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go to the news. So I clicked on more, show more sources. I'm going to go over here to the news. And I want you to resort this from newest to oldest. And then you kind of have to read, okay? Some stuff that actually has been interesting that has come up in here. Turbulence looks at this. This thing really seems to have come up a lot. Let's see here. I'm looking for one in particular. Where'd it go? Oh, this one here. This is, so ECJ ruling is defeat and victory for workers' rights. Okay, so let's look at this. Took me all the way to get down to 22. It looks like a lot have written on this issue. Look at this. We're still like just a few days out, but I'm just going to click on this one. And then I'm going to read it, okay? It says, today the International Transportation Workers Federation have welcomed a ruling by the European Court of Justice. It's a major defeat for Ryanair on workers' rights. Okay, so this is good. You want to write about stuff that's major. So you could either write a comment on this particular case, or you could write a note on this case talking about other sort of like employment issues. You know, determines that an employee can sue his or her employee at a court which he or she regards as closest to him and her. Okay, so this is a vital step, blah, blah. So this is very employee-friendly case. Now you might want to write a note or take the comment side and say, you know what, this is not a good idea, and argue the other side and make an employer-friendly argument as to why this was a bad idea. So let's say you like this and you kind of want to write about this. Then you go over here and you can stick it in a folder. Okay, so folders are up here. And then I have like potential law review topics. I already have this set up so I could move it in. You can click over here on choose a folder, and then you can create a new folder if you don't already have one. I just want to show you like a couple other things though. I'm going to click back. Now, let's say that this is like too many things to like think about, okay? And you want to get a little bit more specific. Then you can go over here to search within results, and you're like, you know what? I want to see what the ECJ has said with respect to privacy. And then what you can do is you can narrow in on certain issues that might be interesting to you. So I'm going to focus on privacy. And then bosses may lose right to snoop on staff emails. Beautiful. This is actually probably pretty good. You click in. This is from the European Court of Human Rights, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. has this week handed down an important ruling that could put an end to bosses monitoring their work email. Okay, so you would read this, and then you can either write a comment on this case, or you can write a note on the broader issue of how privacy has traditionally been dealt with in the European Union, and what this does to kind of alter that. Okay, I'm going to actually copy this out. I want to show you guys something else. Now, let's say you want to find the case that they're talking about. I actually suggest you go to the European Court of Justice website and you search for it there. I think we do have some European Court of Justice opinions. I'll show you where they are, but it's not like full, I think you'd have a better shot of actually going to the human rights cases. So that's a really good one. And then the other one I also kind of liked is down here. I think it's number 12. Protecting data in a data-driven world. There's a lot about this on here. There's one in here that had to do with this right to be forgotten. This actually was a big case that came out a few years ago. I'm not finding what I want. Okay, so now we're going to actually, I'm just going to show you if you wanted to do, if you were looking at from a human rights perspective instead, you could just do European Court of Human Rights within the same paragraph as ruling or ruled, and then you can see what came up there in the news. So you click here, right? You go over to show more, you go to news, and then the key thing is you have to resort from newest to oldest to make sure that you don't get really excited about something that has already been written about because the article's old, Monitoring employees' communications. Okay. Oh, this is good. Genocide. This is actually kind of a really big case. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get, this is be a big paper to write about Rwanda, but you can tell there's a lot of articles being talked about. Now, let's say you want to say spyware will track users' every move without a trace. This is actually would be really good too. So, okay, you've got I think there's actually a fair amount that happened in the last year that might be good for you. I want to give you one more place to look, and I'm going to do it like this. Okay, and then we're going to talk about preemption. So essentially you want to look in the news, and then I want you to go to Law 360. This is another type of a database where they have really, really good articles that are written by attorneys about major happenings in in particular areas of the law. So I want you to we're going to stay super general, I have no idea what I want to write about kind of general, and I'm just going to search on the court. Okay, so you could do this with your human rights too. European Court of Justice, let's just say. Okay, and I'm going to quote it, and I'm going to go over here, different from the news. This is actually called expert analysis, and so it's in secondary material, which is over here. And then you scroll down here, you go to expert analysis. So I went secondary material, expert analysis. And then this is Law 360 here, expert analysis, Law 360. You can go to the source. You don't have to do that though. This is a really good case here that Uber may have met its Waterloo in Europe. This would make a great note, this particular article, if you want to read it. But just before we get there, you want to make sure that you only look at stuff from 2016 and 2017. This particular database doesn't let you sort by date, so I'm just going to do it like this, okay? Search within results in the last 2 years. And then when you click on this one, I thought this was a great topic. Recent developments in Europe suggest that Uber's business model built on its claims, blah, blah, might be in trouble. And then what this article does is it goes through Uber in the UK, Uber in Denmark, and it kind of shows you what's been going on in each court across Europe. This would make a great note in my opinion. Okay, so those are just kind of some different ideas for you. I don't want to make the video too long. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys about preemption. Okay, how do you know if your case is preempted? Well, if you decide to write a note, I take that back. If you decide to write a comment, what I want you to do is I want you to run the case name, okay, across Lexis, all right? So this is the case name that I'm going to use. This is technologies. I'm sorry, do this right. Technologies. Oh, I'm sorry. Versus, I'm going to do like within the same sentence actually, so that I can get, in case they say versus, they spell it out or they use, okay, within the same sentence as ZTE. Now that's the defendant. So what I really want to do is I want to look in law reviews and see if anyone else has also written a comment on this case. So I click over here on search. I then go over here to secondary material. I click on law reviews and there's 37. Okay, so let's see. I then resort this from newest to oldest and I look. As you go down here, you can tell this is antitrust. This is about copyright. Supreme Court. Oops, sorry. I'm going to click back here. What I want you to look for is the following. Okay, when you pull up your own case, this goes for both notes and comments. I want you to look at the title and then the date. So the title, geo-blocking requirements in online distribution of copyright content, and then I want you to look at the date. How do you know if you're preempted? Well, let me start with what it does not mean. An older argument on the same topic does not mean you're preempted if there's been new laws or new events or new kind of legal cases that have come out since that older article came out. Then it lets you write about it all over again. You are also not preempted if it's a really long article, but only a small section is devoted to what you want to say. That's not going to preempt you. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here, actually. And then the other thing is you can argue a different perspective. You can take the employer perspective and someone else took the employee perspective, for instance. Argue a different side, and then you're not going to be preempted. What does preempt you is a recent law review article that is basically makes the same argument that you want to make, and there's really no room for you to talk about anything else. Then you got to find a new topic, okay? So that's pretty much how you do it here for a note, for a comment. You run the case name here within the same sentence as, plaintiff, same sentence defendant, through here, and then you look at the titles. Now, if you see something that you're like, oh, this looks kind of similar to maybe what I want, you can tell by looking at the title and the date, then you scroll down in here and you kind of read, okay? And you can tell, because all these law review articles are kind of done the same way, sort of if you're going to be preempted, just kind of by skimming it. Okay, so that's for a comment. For a note, you take the topic that you want to write about. So let's say we want to take like this concept of like what I wanted to do is the European Court of Justice also came out with kind of an interesting thing with respect to tobacco and whether or not they had to change their packaging. This was a good case. It's actually in the list that I gave you. It was interesting. So let's say we want to write on like tobacco packaging in Europe. So I'll say European Court of Justice because I'm going to use a case as a jumping off point to talk about bigger issues. And then I kind of take the main issues that I want to talk about and I connect them by paragraph. So I'm going to say tobacco within the same paragraph as plain packaging because that was the terms that they were using. Like this, okay? And then I go over here and I click search and I'm going to go secondary material and back to law reviews. So I go to law reviews and there's only 4. So that's actually pretty good. I resort this, remember, from newest to oldest because you really can't be preempted by an article from 2012. This is the most recent thing that's come out here is 2016. So that's good. You say prepare for technical, you're talking about like whether or not they have to change their packaging. So this is not tobacco litigation in international courts. This actually could probably really help you, but it's not going to preempt you. So you can always cite to other law review articles. In fact, that's the body of what you're going to be trying to find or when you start writing your paper. So you don't want to find something that no one's ever written about because that means you have to cite almost every single sentence in your paper and you've got to find your sources from someplace. Your sources generally come from primary law, which would be like statutes, cases, the news, and law review articles. Those are like the 4 main places. So some of these, out of mind towards a new EU tobacco productive directive. This is from 2012. It's going to be too old. You're not preempted. This also is too old. So these might help you, but you're not preempted, and you'd be able to write on this concept. So that's generally how you do preemption and how you find a topic. If you guys have additional questions, feel free to reach out to me and I can help you out. All right, thanks for listening. Have a good day.